Hello, hello. Here we are again with Agi coming to you from Broadcast Team Alpha and 41 different platforms around the world. And we're going to have some fun. And this one's going to get interesting. And yeah, I'm the host and for this. And we are also transmitting on the Conscious Awakening Network. And folks, you got to go over there and see it there because this, by the way, this will also be there. You can watch it there, or your favorite place should be YouTube because that's where we can also monitor the chat room and you can participate in the show asking questions and whatever, and we will be there and answer questions for you. So this could get really good. You can also get in touch with myself or Nori at broadcastteamalpha.com. And well, maybe we should just get right to it. I have here Gil Carlson with me again. He has written 41 books, unless there's more now. and he has he has almost come out of obscurity because he's been sitting back writing all these books, and now he's coming out with it. And we are going to talk about one specific book this time that, from all of the books that I have seen, I would highly recommend. And this one is on the secret space program. And I have been in the UFO field and as an investigator for UFOs, extraterrestrials, future technology, alien technology, and anything that goes along with that for decades. But he have found stuff that I've never seen before. He's got pictures in there of things, both on the moon and on Mars. And also he talks about the cover-up, the deep cover-up, the reasons for it, maybe also. And I tell you, folks, plan on staying with us through this one, because if you're interested in these subjects, you need to hear this, because he's going to talk about many of the things that is in the book. So welcome to the show, Gil.
Thank you for the kind words, Augie. And I hate to brag about my books, but this is an
Please
amazing
do.
book. This is an amazing book, and it's
Yeah,
so crammed with information that's going to make your head spin.
yeah.
And we're just going to probably just touch on the edges of some of it. And I would suggest everybody go out there and order this book. And
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. I
one
will.
you really need for your collection. You can
Yeah,
learn an
and
awful lot for
you
it. And
said your head would spin, and I got about 10, 15 pages into it, and I was spinning already. So because I saw some pictures there that I've never seen before, incredible pictures. So just
and you didn't get into the time travel and stuff like that. That's right up your alley.
yeah, and you talk about that in here.
Yes.
That time travel has been covered up because it is real, and it's been real for quite a while. Anti-gravity has been available since the 1950s, but that has been covered up. And you talk about that.
And
Please start somewhere and educate us. I am all ears, and so will
well,
everybody
actually,
else.
the anti-gravity has been used in a lot of our fighter jets recently.
Yep.
And,
Yes.
and time travel has been, oh, that goes back. Government's been, oh, experimenting with that. Oh, I guess it goes back to the Montauk Post days.
Yeah.
And or
Yeah.
should I say Montauk base? It was an air
Yeah.
base.
Yeah.
Uh, and
That.
actually, I've got a book out on that too, which is
Yeah.
very interesting. But let's stick with the secret space program here.
Yeah. Let's stick with that. Start wherever you want, and then we will just go.
Well, some of the stuff in there that's gonna make your head spin is our presence throughout the galaxy with military, civilians, and even our citizens forced into slavery. Um, and military weapons being used in space, and alien weapons that may be used against us and our planet, and even against alien races that we've had a falling out with, uh, and actual and major planned changes to other worlds. And of course, we're going to get into our moon and how it is occupied by human and alien races and has been for a long time. Plus, we've had huge mining operations and numerous colonies on um, on the moon as well as other locations.
Yeah, you mentioned something actually. Oh, I got to turn the phone off. Okay. That's what I get for not turning the phone off. But you mentioned something and you said slaves. And I want to comment on that a little bit. A lot of people out there are aware, they are aware of all the people disappearing,
Yes,
especially children. Hundreds of thousands of children disappearing just with no trace globally. Where do you think they go? We got to think about that because it appears from what we're finding out and in your book and other places that yes, they are abducted and they are taken to the moon and also other places here underground on Earth, and they are used as slaves and they are trained to do certain things that supports the secret space program and other things. Now this gets deep and it gets really difficult to even think about when you think about these children.
actually, it is very shocking. And for years, there's been a lot of this going on in underground bases, such as Dulce Base, and where they're used in breeding programs. And more recently, they've been used in the space program
Yeah.
and taken to places like Mars and used for uh, there's slave labor or military operations. Uh, and that may be a shock to a lot of people because NASA's been telling us there's really no life there and looking for little bugs and water under the dirt and stuff. But supposedly we've had manned bases there, and
Yeah, you
and we
have pictures of humans and humanoids on Mars, and those are NASA prints that have been either intercepted before NASA got their hands on it to cover it up, or it was leaked from NASA. And these are prints that show it.
one of the I got it later in the book, but one of the astronauts made a statement that he saw um, a human walking across the, I believe, the surface of Mars.
Yeah.
And
Do you remember,
there's
do you remember back in the old days when they used the brown filter? Everything, even the sky was brown. Everything was brown on Mars. It's not
yes,
not that way anymore. Now you can see blue skies there. In order to have blue skies, you got to have oxygen.
yeah,
So,
it's information is starting to come out. It's leaking out. Although I still see some stuff, especially moon pictures with the black backgrounds, and they've got a special department over there at NASA that filters out everything, all the pictures and anything that looks like something that's they don't want to be there, whether it's aliens or spaceships or whatever. But I shouldn't be picking on NASA so much. They've got a big operation across the river from where I live. They
oh
can
well,
or knock on my door, but
keep picking.
okay. But I think we really where a lot of this stuff. I mean, this secret space program stuff. It is so mind-boggling, and we've kind of been programmed not to believe in this stuff, or it's all been kept from us. and 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 it's but I think where it really started coming out, and a lot of people became aware of it, was back in 2002 when you remember Gary McKinnon, and he hacked into the NASA computers, and he found a lot of stuff. And he found photos of UFOs that had been edited out of some of the satellite imagery,
Yeah.
and flight manifests for spacecraft that didn't officially exist, and lists of military officers involved in extraterrestrial operations. And at first, it seemed like to a lot of us that this he didn't know what he was saying, or this is just you know it's kind of hard to believe.
Yeah.
But then when you saw how the government went after him and said this was the biggest computer break-in,
Yeah.
or government computer break-in ever, and how damaging it was, and they were anxious to get him back from Great Britain and make him spend the rest of his life in jail, then you realize um, he wasn't making this stuff up. This was something serious that they
Yeah.
didn't want us to know.
And Gary McKinnon found a whole long list of names that was titled non-terrestrial officers
Yes, that
and ship-to-ship transfers. And there was a lot of things there that should not exist, but obviously it was on NASA's computer, so it does.
yeah, and there's still a lot of people out there that don't. I've got people who've seen the promotions for my book,
Yeah,
and they just don't believe that there's really a secret space program. Um, and it's it's just too unbelievable. And some people accuse it of being science fiction, but from what I understand, a lot of the like Star Trek, everything else was based on real things that were leaked to the government, uh, to the movie producers and writers, and kind of, I guess, either I don't know, I'm not sure. Either it was to get us warm us up to the idea of what's going on, or another option could be that they wanted to make all this stuff look like science fiction, so that when people reported on it, they would just say, "Oh, that's science fiction." Uh, this
yeah,
is what happened with the Inquirer. I don't know if you're familiar with the Inquirer. That went the newspaper that sold in markets and stuff like that, and had a lot of crazy articles. In the beginning, it had just crazy things on flying saucers, or flying saucers that landed on some grandmother's roof, or just
yeah,
weird stuff.
yeah,
And nobody believed it. And the truth was, the Inquirer was created by someone who had CIA connections, and it was created with CIA money backing. And the idea was that anybody who came out with articles about UFOs, um, they would be unbelievable,
yeah.
they and they would just say, "Oh, that's just Inquirer stuff."
Yeah, you talk about here that our presence in this galaxy has been around for quite a while. Since for several decades, we've been traveling through the solar system here, and you also even quite a ways back, possibly to other worlds. And both military and civilian, possibly slaves. You got a section in the book about this that really blew me away because there's some of the stuff in there I didn't know.
And and you're probably one of the most knowledgeable people on these subjects that I know of. So that's saying something.
Yeah, and then they also talk about planned changes for other worlds. Other worlds.
Definitely.
Maybe
There's
comment
stuff
on.
going on out there that we don't know about. That's where they're changing the moon, Mars. It's amazing things they're doing.
Yeah,
Too bad they couldn't do a little bit of that on Earth and clean up the environment,
yeah. I guess that.
our global warming. It's it's amazing probably what's being done to the atmosphere from all these satellites that are being launched every day.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
And you also talk about the military weapons that is being used, and possibly also alien weapons that is used against us. And I didn't need to say any more on this issue. Just think Hawaii 4 months ago.
Yes, that's something I didn't want to bring up. I'm sure that's a touchy subject, but
Yeah,
I've
but
got a lot of pictures that what happened there and it looks kind of suspicious where a lot of trees are still standing,
yeah,
but the buildings are gone.
yeah.
Uh,
But we probably should be a little diplomatic on this one since we are still on YouTube's and the gods over there. I mean,
oh
at least,
yes, yes, I forgot about them.
at
But
least they think they're gods.
it
But
is a sad thing that's happened in
yeah,
Hawaii, whatever
people
the
people
reason is.
people need to go to maybe some alternative platforms and research that one. Then they're going to find out what really happened because these may be alien weapons that has, or should I say, now our weapons, but the technology was given to us to develop.
The one of our latest warplanes, the what is it, TRB-3 or TR-3B? I don't know. I have to read my book again. Was used in the Iraqi war,
Yeah,
and they had some weapons in that just wiped out within several days the whole Iraqi fighting force.
yeah. There's actually also a video that come out of Iraq where there was a triangular ship sitting in the sky, stationary, and then
Yes,
suddenly there was a whole mountaintop where there were buildings and stuff that just
yes, that's the
vaporized.
same thing, the
Yeah,
triangular shaped thing.
yeah.
We see a lot of those around nowadays. They also use them. Of course, it's anti-gravity and it's extremely quiet and it can stand still.
Hmm.
I heard in the beginning they were using a lot of that. They had amazing electronic equipment on that where they could just hover over a city and just suck up all transmissions and copies of everything, your phone, uh, everything.
Yeah, yeah. I think that once people start diving into this and researching a little bit, they're going to get more hungry for the truth.
There's been a lot of changes recently,
Yeah,
and especially with the UFOs and things like that, where more and more people are interested in learning about these things, and it's getting more difficult for the government to cover up things. And
yeah. This alien technology that has been given to, I would say, both the United States and Russian have some of that.
yes,
They've proven it. There's been incidents where you've seen it. It it is dangerous. They probably they're using it for military or control, but it could get to the point where it could really hurt the planet we are living on.
yeah, it makes you think. I mean, it
Yeah,
was dangerous enough back in the 40s when we had nuclear weapons, and now it's just bizarre.
yeah,
I'm not sure what's behind it, if they're out to destroy this planet or what.
yeah. And I saw a quote in the book here, and it talks about possibly, and this is a colonel, no, there was a general that was put in charge of the space program, and he said something to the effect that they were going to develop technologies that could even blow up a planet.
Yes.
So that's why I think if the technology got in the wrong hands, if somebody off planet in the secret space program, it wouldn't hurt them if they blew up this planet.
Um,
There, there's a lot of crazy people out there.
that has happened before, many millennia back, where there was a planet, I can't remember what it was called, near us that was blown up
Yeah, yeah.
in
That's how we
some
got
other planet's warring.
the asteroid belt from Maldek was blown up. So
Yes.
and it spread out, and now we have the asteroid belt, and there are meteorites that has been found in Antarctica, and there are signs of carbon life in those meteorites. So
Yes.
we know something was there. Now you also talk about the moon being occupied. Speak a little bit about that.
Oh, we covered a lot of that in a previous program on
Mm-hmm.
aliens on the moon, and there's still a lot to be covered on there. I After I put out that book, I there's more things I've discovered that I might have to add to my book. Uh, but one of the things that's interesting is our involvement on the moon. I mean, we've got our astronauts who landed on the moon and took samples of soil and did things like that, supposedly. But there was so much going on. We were already there, especially we had bases on the far side of the moon. Um, One of the interesting things was that we actually sent a nuclear weapon to the moon, uh, and and they claimed that we did it to explore for water. Um, does that make any sense to you?
No,
Exploring with nuclear weapons, but supposedly it was a an alien base there that was unfriendly aliens or something that
yeah,
we took out. And
and I'm sure because of that they're really going to invite us back again, don't you think?
wasn't there some kind of agreement that was signed by a lot of major
Yeah,
countries here that we wouldn't take any weapons out into space and things like that?
yeah, the space treaty. Sure, there was
Yeah,
a lot of people that signed on to that one, and every one of them has probably broken it.
like everything else.
Yeah, they always do. Now, you also talk about the mining operations on the other side, on the back side of the moon. And there are pictures of those in the book and other places also. So we know they're there.
Yes. And now with what is it, China and India exploring the moon, um, they probably won't hesitate to reveal some of this stuff. It should be interesting.
Yeah. And
But
then again, there was a guy that worked for the CIA that came out and he says he believed there's right around approximately 2 million people, he thinks, living on the moon right now.
hmm.
Or
It's
people on
that's
here.
hard to fathom, especially when you look at these pictures that NASA's been feeding us, and it's just nothing there.
Yeah.
Uh,
But on, if you think about it, there's been breakaway civilizations several times from Earth. One of them from about 9,000 years ago, and the people that made the Vimanas, they were venturing into space, and they went to the moon. And there all the writing coming out of India and Tibet talking about this. So we know that happened. If that was 9,000 years ago, and let's say that about 100 or maybe 1,000 people went there, what do you think in 9,000 years, what do you think kind of population could have grown out of that? Yeah, we could have 2 million people on the moon.
What's interesting is I also covered in the book in the, I believe it was the late 30s, a German group
Yeah.
who created a UFO.
Hmm.
And and that was probably the beginning of the Nazi UFO program,
Yeah.
which and it was claimed that this group, I can't remember the name of it, was given the information and even the blueprints for creating a UFO, and then they created it. They were given this by uh, I, I guess telepathy by
Oh,
some
yeah.
group.
Maria
Which
Orsic or Maria
yeah,
Orsic.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I found that fascinating.
Yeah, and that channeling came in two different languages that she did not even speak. But when the
Mm.
drawings that came with it, that made sense to the German scientists. So they started investigating the language also, and they found that one of them was the old Sumerian language. And
Mm.
then there was another one that you wrote about that I never heard of before. So
And
this
what was
is.
interesting too is this group, after they built this flying craft, alien craft, they used it to they disappeared, used it to leave the planet, and supposedly they went to this planet where this information came from.
Mhm.
I don't know if they made it or not, but it's rather interesting, especially when you see things like that being done, that many years ago.
Yeah,
Makes you
and
wonder about things. And
that's why Maria Orsic and a couple of her friends, they suddenly disappeared. Nobody know
yes,
where they went. So
yes.
they may have gone to the base 211 in Antarctica, or they could have gone.
I was thinking of the same thing.
Yeah, so we don't really know.
It just shows what's been going on out there, that and it's like, oh, one of the things I wrote in my book is about a
Yeah.
two-part system,
Hmm.
like
Yes.
with NASA. Uh, NASA has this, oh, we see all their rocket launches on TV, and it's like it's all for scientific reasons and exploring distant planets, looking for alien life.
Yeah.
Um, and and we fall for that when actually there's the secret side of it
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the
What we see NASA doing is more like for outwards consumption only. What's on the inside, that's the truth, and the outside is just make believe. We couldn't even imagine some of it. At least, well, that's what they do. And you talk about several projects. Project Moon Shadow.
yes,
What is
yes.
that?
Well, it's a little further back
Yeah,
in my book here.
yeah.
Well,
That that is population of the
yes.
moon, traveling there, doing things up there, and you write up the very detail about that in the book. So
Well, that takes us back to slavery and everything else. Um, it was basically Project Moonshadow was basically uh, where they were training, I guess, slaves or whatever, and usually children, for their secret space programs.
yeah,
And and also one part of that was they were training some of these children who were um, like empaths who were sensitive to things, and 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 involving them in interfacing with ETs and different things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
On
and
these pro on these
then there's
projects,
Project. I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, you go ahead. I'll listen.
Mm. All right, and then there's Project Pegasus. That's about teleportation to the moon and Mars. 20 and back. This is a program where they use people on Mars and other planets and for 20 years of service. And and what was interesting is after 20 years, they would return them to where they got them from, and they would reverse age them. They would take them back
Yeah.
to the age they were when they first started with them. And of course, they had erased their memories and things like that. Um, Another project is Stargate. Uh, that's a it's
I
described
know.
as a time travel stage.
When you
And
think, here's something though, that when you think about the 20 and back program,
yes,
they get enlisted into this program. They are sent where to the moon or other places, Mars possibly, and they spend 20 years in the secret space program, enlistment program. And then they come back and they're reversed back to the age where they started. It sounds ridiculous, absolutely unbelievable, because we are taught to think in the terms of old science. We cannot imagine anything that is so far out there, an alien civilization that had hundreds of thousands of years of uninterrupted development of science could very well have come up with a system to do this. In
yes,
fact,
so they've been sharing a lot of this knowledge with us.
yeah, you can read about it in the book, and
Yes.
it is done. If you go to YouTube, even you can actually read about some of this, how they do it, and then supplement with a book or YouTube as a supplement to the book, and you will understand how they do some of this because it can be done. Reversing the aging process is not a new thing anymore. And the Nobel Prize was given for the technology and the supplements to do it in a totally different way. And electronically, when we know that outside of the physical there is no time and space, then you can go there and come on back to the previous time. I am totally sure this is very possible. And
Well, you're kind of an expert on time travel. I've heard about some of your
yeah,
voyages. It's something that still boggles my brain, that things like that can happen. But
yeah, I know.
yeah,
I know, but
but time is like different from us than it is on other planets and things like that. It's just
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Now you cover some of these programs really well in this book. Let me name some of them. You did mention the Moon Shadow 20 and back to Pegasus. Then you talk about Stargate program, the jump rooms. You talk about time travel, how it is possible. Phantom time hypothesis you cover in there. And this is something that the readers and the viewers really need to know about. If you're interested in this, go to the book and find out. You also talk about a chronovisor that was created back in the 1950s.
Yes, and supposedly it goes back, the origin of this goes back even further, where
Yeah,
they can view time and I guess in the past and in the future. And that's that's amazing that they can do that. And there's even I've got drawings in there of how this can be created. Um, I'm not sure how many people are capable of doing it or would want to try, but
yeah. And the chronovisor that was done for the purpose of the Catholic Church. Actually funded that
Yes,
thing.
they were involved in that, or they had the original
Yeah,
um,
and
information on.
and you talk about Albert Einstein being involved in it. In fact, I also know that Werner von Braun was involved in it later.
Oh, yes.
To
He was
to
amazing.
yeah,
We wouldn't have
first,
got to the moon without him.
yeah. Oh man, and then yeah, some of these programs that you talk about in there, I hadn't even heard of. So this is something that really should be explored.
You know what? I've got something just popped in my head here about the chronovisor. That has similarities to the what we did on the Yellow Book.
Yeah.
It's probably not the same, but it might be the same type of technology,
Hmm. That could very well be.
viewing things from the past and the future.
Yeah.
But
Because that chronovisor, there's enough writing about it to know that it actually did happen and it was created. So, yeah, and you also talk about the different bases here on Earth that supports the secret space program. We have one in Antarctica, that one in Pine Gap in Australia. Then,
and then the other ones in Australia also.
yeah, is that the one at Tidbinbilla?
Tidbinbilla.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's a tracking station where they have
right.
radar installations and maybe other installations that I don't know how work, where they can track ships hundreds of thousands of miles away. So
It's
yeah,
it's amazing what they can do. And of course, Pine Gap, I've covered that in my underground alien book.
yeah,
There's a
and
lot of amazing things and strange things going on there.
there's some pictures of that too in there about the radar domes that is sitting there. And
And there's been in the government, the CIA, DARPA, they're still involved in a lot of brain control programs,
yeah,
and which is kind of scary. But
well, that's one of the things that when children disappear, when they're taken somewhere to become that slave or whatever person that they want the child to be, it is a constant mind altering program to direct them into what they want these children to be.
a number of years ago, I had this friend of mine. He was like a business associate. We worked together on a lot of things. He was from IBM, and he was in charge of a lot of the big mainframe computers. And I used to tell him, his name was Buzz, and I used to say, Buzz, one of these days, I can see it. One of these days, we're not going to need the keyboards and the mouse. We're going to be able to control these computers with our brain. And and that's what's happening now. That's what they're coming out with.
What did the
He
boss
used to,
think
he used to
about?
tell me I was crazy.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. Yeah.
And
And
and now they've got supercomputers that are controlling not our lives, but controlling actual reality.
in fact, the CEO of Motorola telephone division, the smartphone division, I guess, or whatever they would call it, he said in a speech one time that by 2030, nobody would need to carry around a telephone anymore because your telephone will be here, he said. All you had to do is to think a term of someone that you wanted to make contact with, and bingo, you made the contact with the other person's brain, and you could have a two-way conversation by thought going on.
There are actually people now who have psychic abilities
Yeah,
who can do things like that. Um,
yeah, yeah.
it's I got a bad habit of drifting off on different subjects, but there's
Oh,
so
I
many
did.
things in my head. That has happened. We haven't done a program on it yet, but my past lives book,
Hmm.
where I had a connection with this, discovered with this girl many years ago, and we had a psychic communication, um,
Yeah.
where I could talk to her. We could hold a conversation telepathically.
Hmm.
She could sense everything. It is really amazing. But anyway, let's get
Yeah.
back to the book before we run out of time here. Um,
Yeah. Let's, could we maybe dwell on the solar warden a little bit? Just look,
yes,
just look at the name, solar warden. What does a warden do? A warden is
keeps you
one that,
prisoner.
yeah, he
That's my
keeps
first thought.
keeps prisoners.
Yes.
Could that be?
They've been saying that this is a prison planet,
Yeah.
and maybe they're right.
Well, it seems that way. But this
But
program has been around since, what is it, about 1980 or so? I think
yes,
I think I read in your book that was about 1980 when they first envisioned this.
that sounds about right.
Yeah. And
Um,
it was handed over to what, Navy, I think, just to manage this, was it? Or I think so. NASA and the Navy. In,
well,
fa- in fact, one of the first larger spaceship that maybe Gary McKinnon found was built on the principles and actually maybe like a U-boat
yes. I heard like a submarine. Yeah.
submarine.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. You're the U-boat.
yeah,
Okay. You're talking about the German version. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You threw me off there for a minute.
Hmm. So
But
this
what's
is,
interesting though is whether it's the Solar Warden, um, or any of the other programs, they're out there and they have these massive ships. One of them is like an aircraft carrier that's like 2 football fields long, and it's and Solar Warden is a good term for this because in spite of what NASA says and haven't found any aliens yet or anything, um, but I know there's aliens working at NASA. So
yeah,
anyway, they've sectioned off parts of outer space where we're controlling them with our our fleet out there,
yeah.
and we're interacting with alien races. Uh, Matter of fact, they have to when a different alien race comes into a territory that we're have control over, they have to get clearance to pass through.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
and then we have the reptilian race is very much spread out, and some of them actually are friendly towards us, and some of them maybe not so. And you talk about that also. They're kind of greenish in color, and you talk about how they deal with us. And folks, you just got to read it on your own. It gets
well, there's so many different races out there. I
yeah,
mean, some of them are, I believe, are us from the future.
yeah,
And there's a lot of connections and a lot of similarities between a lot of these races, and some are good and some are bad. It gets a little scary sometimes and a little confusing. But
yeah.
I heard that the it's only the good aliens, the friendly aliens that are interacting with us here on Earth. So hopefully that's true.
Yeah, let's hope so. But there is also so you write about the Draconian Federation Alliance, which
Yes.
is a huge intergalactic and interplanetary organization. So this gets a little airy because some of them, when they find, and you write about this in the book, and you go into detail on how this works, they find a planet where there is life kind of like us, maybe. They come and infiltrate, and like the Borg, they just take over, and now we become their slaves. So,
But actually, we may be doing the same thing
well, if we have the
on
chance to,
other
yeah,
planets.
yeah,
I mean, look what the governments are doing to us on this planet.
yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah, and
maybe one of these days we'll figure it all out.
the Solar Warden, that is also the people that runs this, what's called as the Mars Defense Force.
Yes.
And the people on the program 20 and back, they talk about this in detail. And as you write about it in the book, there are people and there are extraterrestrials working with each other on Mars.
And there's also some ETs that are against us on Mars. That's why we have to have a military, a lot of military people there.
Yeah, yeah, we have to defend, I suppose. But you also
It's
talk about the fact that a lot of the hostile extraterrestrials has been kept away here by the ones that have our best interest at heart.
yes.
Oh, this is good. Did you see? Well, of course you did because you talk about it. Uh, there was a U.S. and a joint U.S. and Russian mission to Mars back in the late 1960s or early 70s. There is a video about that that has been floating around, and you can hear the Russians talking to you can hear the Russian accent talking to Americans when they're flying over the surface of Mars.
That's that was at the same time we had the Cold Wars, and supposedly were our enemy, and things like that. And what's interesting is I write about my friend Larry. He's
Hmm.
been involved with a lot of the books with me, and he's been investigating UFOs and for years, and he's been high up positions in the government. Um, but when he was younger, he was he visited to NASA, and and he had this impression that that NASA is a public organization, not really
Yeah.
the military type that is that they don't want you to know about. And so he was looking around and he found a door. It was a red door, and it was no one was allowed in there as a secure thing. And he made a big fuss. He went over there and like, why is this locked? It's supposed to be, public funds used for this and everything else. And they kicked him out. And and also he went up to DC at that time, and he was looking over some of the spacecraft. And we had one of the earlier, I don't know, it was the Voyager, one of the earlier spacecraft where it was the controls were in what's it called? The Russian language, Cyrillian.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he that really puzzled him because you know this was kept quiet that we were working with on joint ventures with him, and he made a fuss over that and want to know what's going on here. And next time he went up, that was removed from the display in the
Okay.
museum in DC.
That makes perfect sense because on the space station right now, there is a US section and a Russian section. In the Russian section, the controls are in Russian.
Right. But back in those earlier days, there supposedly wasn't any cooperation between us. They were
Yeah,
our
yeah,
our enemy. But I don't know. I don't know what's going on here in this world, but it's crazy. And just as I had mentioned earlier about a two-part system in NASA, the public system, what they want us to know, and then the hidden one. It's the same thing in the government. We have a two-part system, the one on the surface, where they let us vote for our politicians and other things like that. And then there's a secret government that actually controls everything. Whereas what we're involved in, elections and all this kind of stuff, is meaningless.
yeah.
Someone else is making the decisions. And there's a good possibility that it's the secret government is integrated with some alien entities.
Yeah. I think the ultimate orders come from off the planet
Yes, that could be. Wouldn't
because
surprise me a bit.
I think somebody wants their world back. So they are terraforming Earth for what they need it to be. And that's what's going on right now.
Well, that's what's been going on for a long time with the interbreeding programs.
Yeah. 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 And, when you talk about government being military, yes. I think it was Alexander Hamilton, one of the founding fathers, that said it a government will always be military in nature. And just for a second, let me spend about 6 seconds and prove it to you. We have different government agencies. Why is it called Sir, for the medical establishment, it's called Surgeon General?
Yeah, and he
Why?
wears a uniform too.
It's right there. It's right in your face. It's military.
Yes, it gives
So,
us something to think about.
yeah. Well, I am not all the way through the book yet, but I tell you, there is. Let me look.
I think you'll be amazed when you get
Yeah,
into the time travel stuff and
yeah,
everything.
yeah. There's 151 pages of amazing stuff in here, and I highly recommend to people that this is one of the ones that you really want to see. We just scratched the scratch on the scratch that was scratched into the scratch. It was
Well,
so. Yeah.
and also I'm going to save them some scratch because like all the books that are on your show, I've got this reduced for the next few days on Amazon. So they can
Oh,
go to Amazon and get it at a reduced price, save a few bucks,
okay.
and get a lot of knowledge.
Sounds great. That sounds good. I've gotten just about halfway through it by now, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it to read between other stuff that I do. Uh,
Okay.
I read pretty fast, so I'll probably have it done in a week or so. But this is something, it's an educational book because if you're interested in UFOs and extraterrestrial entities or technology, there's a lot of stuff in here on technology. And even when it comes to the moon, they talk about the people and where the moon come from, possibly, and who's there, and there is stuff that you need to know.
There's a lot of technical stuff in there,
Yeah.
but I write books for the way I want to read a book. So
Hmm.
it covers a lot of information, but I make it interesting and easy
Yeah.
to understand
Yeah.
because I don't want to put anyone to sleep.
And I have, let's see here. Here is scientific drawings by of patents. And let me just go scroll back a little bit. It's yeah, that one, and there is. I'm just going to spend a little bit of leafing through here. There were pictures of people on Mars and stuff on the moon. And yeah, I can't show it all. So anyway, just just go and educate yourself, folks, because this is coming. We are being spoon-fed right now for the ultimate goal of the establishment to get us conditioned to a point where we can accept that they are extraterrestrials. And this is slowly being fed into through, you know, disclosures, small little bit here and there, coming up to the point where they show up in the sky. And they will. They will be here. There will be a day when you find yourself and they're all over the place in the sky. And they are actually right now, but they show up as little lights in the sky. Especially at night, you can see them. Here in Tucson, you can go outside at night, and just about every other night, you can look up into the sky and you see stuff that's going one way and suddenly a light going another way. Airplanes don't do that. Hey, I got a question for you, Gil.
Okay.
If you could talk to the whole world and the world was listening, what would you tell them? What should they be expecting?
Oh, change,
Yeah,
change. And in spite of everything we've been talking about and everything else, it's gonna be a change for the better. Things are gonna be fixed. Um, we're gonna be, it's gonna be the new humans improved.
that's what we have been programming the universe to give us
Yes,
because we are that universe. We create our own. And all what we create in our mind will show up in our reality somehow. It's all we have to help
definitely,
create. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
We need to create our own lives and our own future.
yeah. Okay, well, I think we're down towards the end here. So thank you very much for being with us again. And we got to do this again sometime. There is more books to talk about.
Sounds great.
In the meantime, folks, go to Amazon.com and put Gil Carlson in there in the search bar, and you'll find all the books. Or they can contact you directly also. How do they do that?
Um, you've got me by surprise here. Um, oh yeah, go to Wicked Wolf Press at AOL.com.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, folks, for listening. And we will be back with another show on Sunday night, Tuesday night. And Nori also has another show during the week. Look for that one. So until then, if you're on YouTube, if you like what you heard, please subscribe. So hope to talk to you soon. Take care. And until then, be good to each other.